Hello, hello. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. This is the first YouTube live on Teach Me to Design. I am pumped and glad that you guys could be here for this. This is the first time we're doing this on the channel, so I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. And yeah, I've got some great stuff that I want to talk to you guys about. Today we're going to be talking about the three biggest frustrations that emerging designers have right now. By the end of this video, you guys will have some actionable tips for how to overcome these frustrations that we're going to be talking about. So for anybody who is new here, for anyone who hasn't seen the channel before or doesn't know who I am, my name is Eric Vasquez, and I am the creator who has been creating all of the tutorials here at Teach Me to Design. And I've also been a graphic designer for the last 15 years, working for brands like Major League Baseball, Sci-Fi, World Wrestling Entertainment, and Oxygen. So please give us a like if you're watching live, or if you are catching this during the replay, comment replay down below. Now, over the last couple of months, I've spoken to over 50 designers. So many of you guys have said that you are frustrated with not feeling confident in yourself and in your work. You feel stuck in your job or in your job progress, and you feel like you can't ask for what you want or what you need from your bosses and your clients. So if you are struggling with some of these frustrations, go ahead and comment yes in the chat box and click the link I am going to drop into the chat to talk. All right. So the biggest frustration, as I just mentioned, for designers right now is confidence. You don't feel confident in talking about yourself or in your work. Now, I get it. It's scary to put yourself out there because of things like rejection, criticism, fear of making mistakes. And like many creative fields, there's a lot of rejection and criticism in design. So how do you keep pursuing your passion when it feels like you're constantly being critiqued and constantly being torn apart? How do you show up at your work, for your work, when you're constantly fearing making mistakes? Even when you do have the skills, do you feel like you just aren't good enough? I've talked to so many people who feel this way. So, if you can relate to that, give us a thumbs up, comment yes. I think it's really important to remember that even when we get criticism or feedback, we can't let the opinions of others affect our opinions of ourselves. If you are devoted to your personal growth and development, and you are on the path that you are on because it's what you love to do, then just keep going. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. If you don't feel like you have to beat someone to be the absolute best at everything, you don't have to make everything a competition, right? There's a saying that I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that says, "I'll believe it when I see it." But when it comes to confidence, we can actually flip this around and say, "I'll see it when I believe it," because you have to believe in yourself before you can see the confidence becoming a reality. So how do you deal with the confidence? How do you deal with the imposter syndrome? These are some of the ways that I approach it and tackle it. The first thing is to check your technical abilities and your design eye. This is number one. Have you taken the time to develop your skills enough? Check in with your Photoshop skills, check in with Illustrator. Have you trained your eye to understand why certain designs work or why they don't work? Think about things like color, like type, and like layout. All right, the next thing is that we have to also practice talking about ourselves and our work, right? It seems kind of obvious, but this goes a long way. I mean, a lot of people that I've spoken with, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this too, but so many designers expect great work just to speak for itself. But as great as that would be, it's just often not the case. Have you ever been in a situation where you're sharing your work with maybe a client or a boss, and they ask you why you made a certain design choice, and your response is usually something like, "Oh, I just did it because I thought it looked cool," or "it just felt right." Instead, try to think about how you are explaining your creative choices or defending your ideas with design terminology. It'll show that you know what you're talking about. Another way to practice thinking about yourself or, talking about yourself and your work is to strike up a conversation with someone about what you do, right? It seems very simple, but it is very effective. And it doesn't have to be another graphic designer. Getting comfortable talking about who you are and what you do in a no or a low pressure situation helps you build up the confidence for when the stakes are higher. All right, so we might have to get a little bit crafty now, right? Because, obviously there's not a lot of opportunities right now where people are meeting, face to face. We're not going to some large design conference where we can go and hand out, business cards and things like that. So we have to get a little bit crafty, but maybe there are ways that we can introduce ourselves to an individual or to a group, either at a virtual happy hour or an introductory email, perhaps. So have you guys, had an experience like this? Have you tried any of these techniques before? Or maybe you're having this experience right now. If so, give us a thumbs up and say yes in the chat. The next frustration that I want to talk to you guys about is another one that's come up so much over the last couple of months for, all of the graphic designers and emerging designers that I've been speaking with. And that is feeling stuck, right? Right now, a lot of people are feeling stuck either in their job or their ability to progress in their job. And, one of the things that I want to talk about is, do you feel kind of like hopeless? Like there's no upward mobility for you to move ahead or higher up in your position? This one can really sting, and it can apply to people, whether you're, a staff designer or a freelance designer. It happens to all of us, but it can often lead to feeling uninspired, creatively stuck. And that in turn makes you feel sort of like checked out, right? You're just kind of phoning it in when you're, when you're at work or when you're doing something. You're not really into it. You're just kind of going through the motions, right? But it's a really important one to talk about, and I don't want to bring that up lightly because it's a big one and it's very painful and it can really kind of hit home. But when this happens, as a result of that, you can hold back some of your best ideas because you feel that oh, I won't be rewarded for this, or nobody's going to give me the credit for that, and you might even begin to doubt yourself to the point where you begin to question if you should even be a designer in the first place. So here's some of the ways that I approach it, and here's how I tackle it. I was in this exact situation, and I felt like I was getting the same type of projects over and over again, and I knew that I could do more. I knew that I wanted to do more than what I was being offered, and I knew that I had these ideas that could help improve a project. So I decided that instead of holding back, that I wanted to show the value that I could provide in order to make myself an indispensable designer. I asked myself, questions like, what type of work do I want to do? What skills do I need to gain or improve to get there? I knew that I wanted to work on high-profile TV campaigns. I love entertainment. I'm very passionate about it. But I also saw that many campaigns had this motion element to them. So I decided to sign up for an After Effects course. And as soon as they needed extra help, I told my boss, I said, hey, I can do this, let me help out. I wasn't necessarily, ready to jump into it, but I took the chance and I was committed to learning and to asking questions to get there. It kept me challenged, it kept me engaged and it kept me motivated. And then, I was invited to work on a campaign from start to finish because they saw how much value I could bring. They saw the passion, the desire. They could tell that I was really, into this project and that I was determined to make it great. So for freelance designers and clients, I think it's similar. Maybe you want to go from working with small businesses to slightly larger corporations. Instead of only being a logo designer, if you work on becoming a brand specialist who can offer clients a full visual identity system, you can offer a full branding campaign and do A to Z, like nuts to bolts. This makes you a one-stop shop for your clients, and that is so valuable. Rather than going to somebody else for all these different services, they can go to you for everything, and you can just kind of oversee the whole campaign. So have you guys had this experience before, or maybe you're having this experience now where you're trying to figure out ways to get unstuck? If so, give us a thumbs up, drop a yes in the chat. All right, it's great. It's great to see some of you guys here. Thank you so much for jumping in here. And I see some of you guys are saying yes right now. So, I know that you guys can relate to some of these points that I'm making today. Which takes me to the third biggest frustration that I've been talking to people about, and that is asking for what you want. Now, this is, man, this is tough because this is just something that applies to life in general, any point in life. But what I'm hearing from a lot of designers out there is that they can't tell their bosses and they can't tell their clients what they need, whether it's clarity, time, money. A lot of people are having trouble just asking for what they want or what they need. So when you feel like you can't ask for more time on a project, you feel burned out. You'll work yourself to the bone and you can wind up feeling resentful as if you were set up to fail from the start, right? And that's a really, really hard problem, right? Or when you feel like you can't ask for the rate or the salary that you want, you feel undervalued, and that really sucks. I've been there, and I can tell you there's nothing worse than feeling like you are being, like you're not being compensated fairly for the work you're producing, especially if you're, giving it your all, you're producing quality stuff, you're getting the results, but you don't feel like you're being, recognized for it, or you don't feel, appreciated. I think that's something that a lot of designers and creative people can relate to, because it's our art. There's a vulnerability to it, and we're putting ourselves on the line. All right, but another thing is, sometimes you might just need more clarity on a project, but you feel like you can't ask, and this makes us feel like we aren't good enough because we don't always get it right away. All right, so these are some really important things to consider, and I know that people are trying to do this, whether it's negotiating or trying to push back or stand up for themselves. So I want to give you guys a couple of tips for some ways that I tackle it. So with regards to asking for more time, it's up to you as the designer to manage the expectations of your clients or your bosses. And maybe you guys have heard the term managing up before, but that's exactly what it means. It means to manage the expectations of someone who is, relying on you, or who has, expectations for a particular outcome on a project. But it's up to us to find a way to communicate how much time you realistically need to do something. And if needed, be prepared to explain why. This will often lead to a compromise on the deadline where you may be able to get more time for a project than you thought. So I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody be like, oh, I need this project ASAP. I need it right away. And, after just having a conversation about it and being like, look, I've got a couple of projects going on at the same time, just how do you handle it when you have more than 2 or 3 projects? You have to manage the expectations. You have to manage up. You have to communicate. You have to talk to your boss, or you have to talk to a project manager, and you have to say, listen, I need more time to get this done. I want to do a good job. And in order to do that, we have to try and find a compromise. We have to try and be a little bit flexible. There's oftentimes a little bit of wiggle room there, but we're not going to get that if we don't ask for it. All right, so the next thing about money, right? Asking for a higher rate, asking for a raise, I'll always look for kind of like, rates to see what other people are charging for certain positions or for certain types of designs. And then make adjustments kind of depending on like, if I have more years of experience or if I have less years of experience than someone else. I'll also kind of, think about the quality of the work, right? If my work maybe looks a lot better than someone else who is charging a lot more, then I can charge a lot more. Or if my work isn't quite as good as someone else, then, maybe I won't go quite as high as that person. So it's really, important to think about also if you're doing something unique, like if the type of work you're doing is really, different, then in a way it becomes more valuable. So it can help you kind of justify charging a little bit more, whether it's, my style or the type of work that I can provide. But all of these things will give you a better case for charging more money. All right. And then clarity, if I, ask questions for clarity, you want to make sure that you're getting the information that you need to start a project, to do a great job on a project, because like that's such an important thing, right? We want to be able to build a good reputation for ourselves based on the way that we treat people, based on the quality of our projects and the artwork that we're making. So I always ask questions, even if I think that I know the answer, I'll ask just to be sure. I'll ask my clients or bosses to just, to trust me, to give me a little bit of space, to give me a little bit of time so that I can bring out my best work. Because, as designers, we need time to absorb the information. We need time to think deeply about, what's being asked of us. And we need time to identify, certain patterns or connections in order to deliver the best work. So these are three of the biggest, frustrations that I have heard from designers who I've been speaking with over the last couple of months. And I want to know if you guys can relate to this stuff. And, if you do want to learn more about how I can help you to become a more confident, indispensable designer, then say yes in the comments below and click on the link that I'm dropping into the chat to set up a call. Now, I also want to check in with you guys really quick to see, just see if there's any questions, see if there's anything that I can help you guys with. So I'm just taking a look right now. Your videos make me learn. That's great. That's really awesome. I see some of you guys are feeling, like you can relate to this stuff. Sometimes you're feeling stuck as well. How do we handle when we are working with more than 2 or 3 projects? So yeah, I think, that was something that I spoke to a little bit when I was saying, to ask for more time. If it's a pressure thing, like I feel as though I need to deliver 2 or 3 projects at, all at the same time, and you feel really sort of like stressed or under the gun. I think it's okay to just be transparent, be honest with your client or with your boss and say, look, I've got these 3 things, these 2 things that I'm trying to do. I need a little bit of time to focus on that. Is there any way I can get a little more time? Can we push the deadline by a day or 2? Anything just to buy you a little bit more time to do the deep work, to do the work that you need to do as a creative in order to ensure that you can deliver the best results possible. So hopefully that'll be, a helpful tip for you. I know that it's something that a lot of designers deal with, right? Especially it's like sometimes the better the work you do, the more is asked of you. It's like that, feeling of the reward for doing great work is more work. And sometimes that can be a difficult thing to manage. But, if you're working at a company, you might have a project manager you can work with. If you're working with a client, sometimes people can give you a little bit more time than they might, allude to off of the bat. So I think it's really just important to, communicate. It comes down to communicating. All right, so let me take a look, just checking back in. How has After Effects helped you in your career? I've been thinking about getting into it, but wasn't sure. Now, this is a great question. And, I can give you an answer just by kind of, relating it to my own experience. So a couple of years ago, I was freelancing at this company. It was like an entertainment advertising company, right? And they were doing lots of stuff for TV and things like that. And I was really into it. I was working on key art, like the poster. I was working on some digital stuff. And I really liked the work that I was doing. I was very, very engaged. And it came time for my, it was a contract thing. So it kind of came to the end of my, couple of weeks or whatever it was where I was working there. And I remember having a conversation with basically the president of the company. She invited me into her office and she was like, hey, you've been doing a great job. We'd really like to, talk about maybe bringing you on full time. And, I was so pumped about this. I was really enthusiastic. I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. But then she said, but, do you know After Effects? We do a lot of motion stuff here. And I couldn't lie. I mean, at that point, I said no. I said, I don't know how to do After Effects. And because of that, I basically lost an opportunity that I was really excited about. So that was when it sort of opened up my eyes a little bit and made me think to myself, like, hey, maybe I should, look into this. Maybe I should start thinking about doing After Effects. And so I started getting into it. I took a class. I started watching a ton of videos. And I've signed up for more classes. And I just started, immersing myself into it so that I could learn as much as possible about it. And once I started doing that, I felt this renewed sense of excitement. You know what I mean? It was like, opening up Photoshop for the first time or doing something that you feel really proud of, if you're creating something cool that you didn't know you could do. And it just opened up so many more possibilities. Not to mention the fact that if you are someone who does a lot of, static imagery, like, posters or banners or anything like that, it's just sort of a natural progression, I think, to then try to bring those ideas to life, try to animate them and add motion to them. But I noticed that once I started doing this, I started getting more opportunities. I started getting more chances to do the animation, to do the motion kinds of work and things like that. So I think it's really important to ask yourself, that's a great way to become an indispensable designer. So what skills do I need? What do I need to get there? What types of things can I throw myself into? And because that's actually come up a lot for a lot of the people that I've spoken with, it is something that I am, thinking about a lot, and actually working on a program right now that does incorporate After Effects, which I'm very excited about. So again, if you're interested in that and you want to learn more about it, leave a yes in the chat. And again, I'll just drop the link in there really quickly so you guys have a way to, reach out to us directly, just to let me know if it's something that you want to, talk about, and tell me ways that I can help you. No problem. I'm happy that, that helps. I hope it helps in some way. I think it's important not to get discouraged, but to think about, A, like what's going to make you excited, what's going to make you feel, motivated and engaged, and B, how can I bring more value to a client or a potential client, because really those are kind of the driving questions. And just taking another look to see if there's any other questions here. Leighton Hansen, thank you for checking out the channel. And it seems like you're on a journey of retraining in design as well. So, feel free to reach out to us, guys. I would love to hear more about where you're at in your creative journeys, and, tell you all the ways that I think I can help. So if you guys can relate to any of this, again, give us a like, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and feel free to share it with anyone else who you think would find it helpful. So again, I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for your continued support. And, I wanted to make sure that, we answer the questions and everything like that. Are there any more questions? Do you guys have anything else that you want to know about before we wrap up? I can hang out for, a few more minutes just to check in. I want to make sure that you guys get, the chance to talk a little bit too, or to ask me anything. And if it's something you don't feel, comfortable asking in a chat, you can always reach out to us. But yeah, I mean, these are some really big topics that I've been talking a lot about with creatives out there. So I think a lot of people can relate to this stuff, and I hope that my tips have been helpful for you guys. Okay. Well, that's great, guys. I really appreciate you being here. Again, our first YouTube Live, I'm so pumped about that. It's really exciting. So I'm hoping to do more of these soon. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.